Okay, we are live with Veronica, and you want to remind us?
Arestia.
Yay!
My first time on live stream. It's your first time on live stream? Well, yesterday I popped in, right? Oh, that's
Yeah,
right. Just
yeah. No, you were on it a lot yesterday. So, give us an update. This is Comer versus Bank of Canada is the official court case.
It's exciting. It was the hearing to see if it would actually go to trial. Apparently, it's the only allotted time for the judge to hear both the plaintiff and the defendant state their case about the claim. So within the claim, there's no actual evidence being brought to the court. That's for the next process before going to trial. So there's a lot of processes within the whole court system. So this is the first sort of moment being heard in the court. So a hearing on whether or not it'll go forward to trial. Motion.
Now we're waiting on Rocco, the lawyer for Comer.
He just got into Starbucks. He's just having a conversation with a lovely gentleman.
Alrighty.
I'm sure he'll make his way over.
Yes, beautiful. And I would love you and Chris to conduct the interview since you were there. Give us some highlights of. We heard Rocco took the Crown lawyers to the mats, to the cleaners.
Yeah, and in such a calm, strong, and respectful way. And I feel it was very reasonable, and isn't that what the court is for? To see reason. Yeah. And I like how he really painted the picture for it, because I think comparing the both cases, the beginning when the defendant first came on, I found it was very kind of I don't want to say BS, but there was cases used and language used that did not add to what was being said, but kind of took away from the case. But then when Rocco came, it was these are the facts. This is what we can't ignore, and really focusing the why we're all here, and the importance. Yeah, connecting the dots, and in a manner and language that we in the gallery can understand.
So if you were to sum up what this case is all about in a few sentences, more or less.
Well, Rocco made a really important, I think, statement that this is a socioeconomic case, and this is something that everyone is affected by. We're all tagged with a socioeconomic and that it is the responsibility of the individual private citizen to bring this to court. And the Crown Attorney did say that perhaps these two individuals are not the best individuals to represent, but they absolutely are because of their history, their commitment to the issue, they've been affected greatly by it, and you don't actually have to be affected in all ways to be able to claim a case. It has to at least affect you in some way. So although they are representative of seniors and a few other demographics, because you don't have to be affected in all ways, they are perfect representatives of the population of the citizenry of Canada.
Yeah.
There was kind of a question of who should represent us, and when the defendant came up, kind of made the statement, these statements that it is Parliament's duty, this debate should be in Parliament, but never talking about the fact that it's really questionable who is representing us, and that we as citizens don't actually, we can't call up our MP and ask them, well, what is the budget, or can you represent us, because that's not being done, right? And we don't actually have the revenue details. Yeah. We don't know exactly. So how are we going to be able to have a proper debate if we don't have the information? So it was really important to have someone tell the Governor General or the Crown Attorney. Yeah, the Crown Attorney's lawyer that what you are stating is not. It's not it's really contradictory to what the constitutional law it was
put there to do for all this. You know, like it's under all of our rights that like this, we have that constitutional law to protect our human rights.
It's in our back pocket, not the MP's back pocket.
Yeah. So it was I think an empowering case too, because like I know for myself, like I learned a lot and like recognize that the law is made to be questioned and like it should be questioned and can
tested.
Yeah.
Just over there. One of the girls should go up from.
You want to remind them of the interview with the live stream?
RST's got it. She's got it.
Men are always more susceptible.
My favorite part was in a small break, the judge spoke to the gallery and thanked us all for being there. It was packed and it was a great demographic.
I'm sure he's not used to packed courthouses.
No, he said specifically that it's a very, very rare thing.
And that it was all these octogenarians and occupiers. How about half and half, as I understand it?
Yeah, it was a very nice, diverse crowd.
Here's the humor.
Yeah.
Oh, it's done.
So it was a positive experience.
Well, some little highlights here and there that stick out in your mind. Little gems of arguments.
I think when Rocco detailed and outlined that the conspiracy to give money to the private banks at interest rates better than any private citizen, that being grounds for inequality, and seeing the judge make those connections with us, I think that was really, really cool, because it's like in court it is stated, no, there is preferential treatment for these corporate entities, which comprise of private citizens, and those private citizens are being given preferential treatment by our government because of the current legislation, which is thus perpetuating inequality in our country. So he talked about the different levels of inequality, and I thought that was very well received. That was a really good part. And what else did I like? I really like the judge. I have a very good feeling.
What was the name of the judge?
I think it's at Rio, but it's not at Alto. Alto. A-L-T-O. It was hard to see. A gentleman who looked like my grandfather, to be honest. Yeah. No word of the lie. Very familiar. Kevin Alto.
Oh, and you have a courtroom drawing.
Yeah, you guys.
I do have a courtroom drawing. I'm not amazing, but.
Okay, wait. Let me adjust the contrast. Okay, there you go. Who's that there?
That is Galati doing his defense.
And then there's the judge.
You should get Rocco to sign it.
And you have William Krem over there too.
Who's that?
William Krem is one of the defendants.
Let's see what it shows. Is that his book?
This is one of his books. Power Unto Itself, The Bank of Canada.
William Krem. Okay. Is the guy with the glasses there and the book?
He's
holding
97 years old. 97 years old.
Oh, we interviewed him. He is.
Yeah.
We interviewed him briefly this morning with the interview with Anne.
Yeah, he knows a lot of stuff. He has like 3 books, I think. I've seen another book going around in the courtroom.
What are some of your highlights from today? I see you took notes.
I took some extensive notes, yes. There's just a lot of case references that we got to try and look up. Like, they were mentioning some Cotter cases.
The Cotter case.
The Cotter case, yeah.
What do you mean, the Cotter case?
Like Omar Cotter?
Ah, yes. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I need to find out what they're actually referring it
Because it
to.
was a constitutional issue where, in that case, the Minister of Foreign Affairs was specifically named because he was the specific person
Because
in that
Omar
position.
Khadr was in Guantanamo Bay.
Exactly.
And Harpo was like, leave him there, even though he was innocent.
Yeah.
And he was a teenager.
Exactly. And inaction is justifiably punishable under the law, just as an action is. So inaction and action, which perpetuates inequality, or as in the Carter case, creates a constitutional breach with regards to health. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
I'm well, how are you?
Ciao Rocco, come sta? Sta bene?
Short, molding, and happy-go-lucky.
Oh! Okay, we're just with the Occupy Toronto live
All right, you
stream,
got me there?
and we have a really good following, and then we're gonna put this on YouTube as well.
Sure.
Now, since they were here, I'm gonna ask them to conduct the interview.
I just wanted a little bit of background for our audience. Like, how long have you been interested in constitutional law in Canada? And what brought you to take on this case?
Well, ever since I've been in private practice, basically, that's what I do. I only do cases against the government. As a sober, articulated anarchist, I believe government is the institutional manifestation of the beast and Homo sapiens. If we don't control it, genocide and what's happening in the world today. You know, that doesn't mean I act beyond the law. Most people really misrepresent what a notion of anarchy and freedom from the mob that is the government entails. They just equate anarchy with chaos, which is not the same thing. You know, but basically it's my political beliefs. My father did 6 years in a Mussolini concentration camp during World War II, resisting Mussolini, and so, you know, I learned my lessons from him in a different context. Nothing acquired is forever unless you fight for it. As we're seeing now, people are taking over again like they did before the last century, which is greed and manipulation of the legal system to their own ends. You know, and just because their government doesn't change the fact they're just a group of individuals. Yeah, so. I used to be a federal crown attorney before I went into private practice. So.
Yeah. Versed on both sides. And so, did Calmer approach you, or?
I can't get into too much of the relation, but I was approached to do this. I think they had approached some other lawyers who didn't feel they were up to the task, and then they came to see me. But it took time to educate myself. Not that I knew this stuff before they took me on. You have to educate yourself on you can't go into a court and just argue the politics of something. It has to be translated into legal rights, either under a statute or the Constitution. So that's the difficult part of this exercise, is that what people like ideally, socially, and economically, unless you translate it into legal rights, it's not going to get you anywhere in court. You know, there are other avenues to redress that, but court's not one of them. So the real challenge is to translate the socioeconomic reality into legal rights.
Well, as someone who is not versed in legal language, I felt that you did a very good job today, and that there was a great effect with connecting the dots and laying out the story.
Well, you have to do that with judges, because you can't assume they know the stuff, right? Because they're human too, and they have certain expertise. It may not necessarily be the expertise that's required. And as the judge told the audience today, that the courts rely on counsel. It's true, to sort of give them the roadmap and educate them in areas where they don't feel 100%. I think we've got a good hearing, and we'll see what the court decides. This is just the first hurdle. If we get over this, then we proceed with the litigation and the trial. Hopefully, not too much will be struck. If the whole thing is struck, then we obviously will appeal. I don't anticipate that happening.
Yeah, I didn't feel like that could happen.
I never predict.
What's a certification motion?
Okay, well,
that a few times.
I filed this as a proposed class action. So if we get over this hurdle, we may certify a class of people, different classes of people who are most impacted by the violation of the law. So the elderly, the economically deprived students. You know, the whole Quebec thing plays into this issue. So there's classes of society who couldn't care less. You know, the top class of society, you know, is buffered from this. They can afford to send their children to school. They can afford private health care. They're not affected by this, but certain members of society are on different planes. Some are affected racially, some socioeconomically, some religiously, on and on. You know?
Yeah.
So, but this whole idea that socioeconomic status is not an enumerated ground for equality analysis. For instance, you know, you can't be discriminated on the basis of color, race, or religion. But they haven't gone there yet. I've argued this once, but the case got settled. That so far, socioeconomic status has not been determined by the courts as part of a human being's attributes, immutable attributes. But it is. We live in society, so you're born with one, and you change it, and you die with something else, but everybody has a socioeconomic status. And so this is something that I've been litigating in terms of discrimination based on socioeconomic status. Lack of money, you know. If you don't have money, you're fucked, you know.
Yeah, you get
End of story, you know. So yeah. You don't censor me, do you?
No.
No.
This is live. We're live to the world.
you're
It's
live.
live stream.
All
Plus, we're going to upload it to YouTube.
All
We're
right.
live to the world right now.
All right.
Now, this case was filed about a year ago.
It was filed last year, but I had been working on it for a year and a bit before that. It took a while.
And just some basic housekeeping. How do you spell your name? You're Rocco.
It's Rocco
Yeah.
Galati.
Okay. And who are the plaintiffs and who?
The defendants are the government, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of National Revenue, the Bank of Canada, and the Her Majesty the Queen representing the government.
It would have been interesting if the Bank of Canada was on the other side because
Well,
they want you to win.
Well, no, they don't. They're all
Really?
They're all represented by the same council.
And to me, that seems like a conspiracy in and of itself. If they're all represented by the same person.
No, but a conspiracy is not necessarily a dirty word. You know, we have this nonsense about, you know, if anytime you say conspiracy, it's somehow a dirty word. Look, the Criminal Code of Canada criminalizes conspiracies. Why? Because they happen ever since Julius Caesar. You know, they happen, and so it's not a dirty word. But do people think that the world's resources are extracted, processed, manufactured, distributed, paid for, leveraged by telepathy, or somebody organizing all of this? I mean, this is nonsense. You know, it just happens by itself. You know, it's ridiculous. And to say that the difference between any plan and a conspiracy is the intent and objective to engage in illegal activity that harms somebody. That's the only difference. Otherwise, it's a plan. A plan is a legal conspiracy. A conspiracy is an illegal plan. That's all. You know, so it's not. You know, every time somebody says, "Oh, conspiracy theory," so please, you know. Anyway, is that it? No.
And how many times was this case postponed? We're at the preliminary hearing.
Well, in fairness, but the first time it was postponed is because I was on the Douglas inquiry out in Winnipeg, and they would not accommodate me when I got standing for my client, so I had no choice but to adjourn. And then the second time, it was adjourned because the court had an issue, couldn't do it that day. So there was nothing nefarious about the adjournments. They're just typical of court proceedings. Sometimes they get adjourned. You know?
Okay. And so if the decision will come down whenever it comes down.
I'll get in the facts, you know?
Yeah, and this is just to then start the court case.
Well, to then proceed to evidence. If the portions they strike are not significant, we'll just proceed. If the portions they strike are significant, we'll appeal. The government may appeal if they refuse to strike what they want to strike, and we'll have to respond to the appeal. So this is the nature of these this type of litigation. The government has all the resources in the world. They rarely are reasonable on these issues, because if they can knock something out procedurally, then they don't have to deal with the issues.
Now, because we're live to the world, we have a question on the live chat from Dissenter. My question would be, if this case was won by Comer, who would get any monetary benefits?
Canadians. I mean, well, the Canadians, because then the Minister of Finance would have to request monies for human capital infrastructure. My clients are not going to make any money in this case. You know. So.
He was like the other guy, I can't remember his name, but he was talking about how this should be fought within Parliament, like within the legislature.
Well, they always say that. What the government always says is that when Parliament makes choices, we shouldn't second guess their choices. This is nonsense. That is true. That's the law. Parliament is supreme so long as they make choices within their jurisdiction. Anytime there's an allegation that they've engaged in constitutional violation or they're outside of the jurisdiction, there's no deference paid to Parliament. They're there for us, not to our detriment. And so anytime they're breaching the supreme law of the Constitution, there's no deference to pay to them. And the Supreme Court has said that over and over again. What the government lawyers tend to do is try to confuse the issue by bringing cases where the court has said that in a non-constitutional context. Okay, that's true. You can't tell government what policy choices to make when they're dealing within their legal sphere. But and they talk about parliamentary supremacy, but we don't have parliamentary supremacy. We have constitutional supremacy. So the parliamentary supremacy has to give way when the Constitution is breached.
And that's what we have in our back pocket.
Yeah, if the Constitution is in anybody's back pocket, it's the citizens, and that's what the Supreme Court has said. It's for us to invoke against the state, not the other way around.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And so the question of the two plaintiffs being the most appropriate representatives for this, I felt was actually very rude, because it's
well, they're citizen taxpayers. If they're saying that their constitutional right to no taxation without representation is being breached, they have every right to bring this. They don't need public interest standing or any of that nonsense. They have a right. We're taxed. And if I'm saying this tax is constitutionally illegal, I have a right to bring the challenge. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I hope you have a...
Can you sign this? That's the old one that's not amended, right?
No, I can't. I can't sign this because I have to read it.
Yeah, you have to.
I'll give you a signed copy if you want. Why don't you give me your email? I'll send you PDF you a signed copy.
That would be awesome.
Can you imagine if you put in here that I had group sex and I want to...
I'm
signing this?
Yeah.
None of them?
He knows what he's talking about.
What about this? What about this?
Oh, Bill will sign that for you. He's over there.
He's right over
He is over there. I'm gonna
He's
go.
an amazing guy. He's 97. He published his last book last year.
Really?
Do you know he fought in Spain with George Orwell in the Spanish Civil War?
My gosh.
And he gave Leon Trotsky his eulogy in Mexico when he's murdered by Stalin henchmen. This guy's an institution. I'm going to film him in 2 weeks to talk to him. We filmed my 90-year-old mother before she died a few months ago. We're filming everybody in their 90s because they went through, all the depression, the Second World War. He's an amazing guy. Really a pleasure. It was a privilege to actually have him as a client.
Yeah, I can imagine you can learn a lot.
I mean, because he's just after my grandfather's generation. My mother was born in 1917. He was born in 1912, and my grandfather was born in 1880. So I'm at the tail end of 13 kids, right? So we skip. We've got this long sort of historical memory, sitting at the table with my siblings. My oldest sister's 74 now. Wow. I'm 52, so 53.
Generation.
26.
Huge.
Yeah.
Well, I've got my mother had great grandchildren. I remember my nephew went over to visit her last year and said, "How old are you now, son?" "Well, I'm getting older. I'm 42. This is my nephew, right?"
Oh, yeah.
Nephews are almost my age, right?
Yeah.
She said, "I have a headache now." Anyways, nice to meet you. Your name was?
Thank you, I'm Veronica.
Nice to meet you,
Very
Veronica.
nice to meet you.
Christopher, nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. So, that was Rocco. So, see why I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. I'm excited to see how things shake down. We don't know. Judge said that will hopefully be sooner than later. And I guess that's where we rest. So send your good vibes, send your little prayer here and there, and we'll get the process moving forward. The campaign has just begun. Awesome.
Want to read that?
Okay, so I will read while we're in an interim. I will read some of the prepared material
And then
that Ann Emmett prepared. She is one of the plaintiffs. So why is Canada, the world's most resource-rich country, so deeply in debt? Well, it's because the present unsustainable financial system depends on the excessive growth of debt and interest on debt. Bad monetary policy and bad monetary institutions have prevented the system that was developed out of the lessons learned during the Great Depression, one that gave rise to a post-war golden age. And there's no reason why that golden age has to end. So why do we need to remember history? The world did not end the Great Depression by balancing government budgets. It was actually governments that institutionalized the ending of the Depression. So it only ended when governments all over the world drafted their central banks, forcing them to create new money that private banks could not or would not lend into existence. This resulted in a great rise in private incomes and a great reduction in private debts. Our central bank, the Bank of Canada, was established in 1935, and it was nationalized in 1938 by the government, of Prime Minister Mackenzie King. And this is a quote of Mackenzie King. "Once a nation parts with control of its currency and credit, it matters not who makes that nation's laws. Usury, once in control, will wreck any nation. Until control of currency and credit are restored to government and recognized as its most conspicuous and sacred responsibility, all talk on the sovereignty of Parliament and of the democracy is idle and futile." So follow the money is basically what he's saying. Follow the money and
show me the money.
Show me the money. Yeah, so basically it is our responsibility to hold the government accountable to actually doing this.
Because we're now paying, because as part of our admission into the G7 at the time, Trudeau had to turn over the printing and loaning of money to the big banks back in 1974. And from 1935 to 74, and that Bill Abrams video is really good, History of the Bank of Canada.
It is fantastic.
Virtually no debt. We built so much infrastructure, financed everything.
Trans-Canada Highway.
There was hardly any, the homeless was, very small. Everything was well looked after. Taxes were good. The economy was good. Once we turn it over to the money lenders, quote unquote, now debt is through the roof. So we're getting less and less service, and everything is so expensive. And it is estimated that we're now paying $165 million a day interest for these banks to loan us our own money.
Yeah,
and they created this out of thin air because of the fractional reserve ratio of 9-to-1. They can create 90% of it out of thin air. Like, how much money is enough for these fuckers?
I can actually, I'm going to speak to my own experience, because an important thing for us as we're growing this campaign and building awareness is to recognize how each individual has been affected by this. So, before 1974, I'm an artist. I do theater as well as visual art, but I'm trained in theater. And so before 1974, there was awesome programs and subsidies for arts and culture. And that's when you saw the rise of the Canadian playwright. Now, if you don't already know, we're pretty good at writing plays. We're really good at writing stories. We have a diverse language to choose from, and not to mention just French and English, but also the diverse ethnic community that we do experience, especially in the cities. And so we have a lot of really lovely ways to tell stories. So in the 70s, it was the golden age of the Canadian playwright. There were new regional theatres popping up all over the country. Theatre in Toronto was extremely exciting. I wouldn't say it was lucrative, but it was supportive. It was supportive and it was growing. So you had playwrights like David French.
Oh,
David French, who is one of my favorites. I'm actually gonna stick to talking about him. He did his work with the Tarragon Theatre. The Tarragon Theatre was the premier place in Toronto to bring new works to, and it was almost completely subsidized by the government, and they had the money to do it, and because of the programming that had been set in place in the previous decade, in the 60s. So this expanded the market for new Canadian work, because there was such exciting stuff coming out of there, including stuff like David French, who is from Newfoundland. And so,
oh, he is?
Yeah, he's from Newfoundland. Saltwater Moon was like his first big one. So, so during the 70s, it's this heyday. All these new playwrights.
And one little thing,
yeah.
Introduced the world. The most famous actor that came out of the Toronto play,
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves, absolutely. And you know what? He would totally be on board with this. We need to start lobbying Keanu Reeves to like participate with us in some way. I bet you he would. So the 70s.
You want to get him in or
That's William. I'm not sure. Maybe Chris. You're gonna have to go.
You have to go close his hearing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to try to wrap this up. So in the 70s, it's this heyday, and then they start cutting the programs. They cut the programs, and they do it in a way that makes it seem like it's the only thing that they can do, and everyone becomes sort of accepting or complacent of it. And by the time I get around to it, artists are talking about there's no jobs, there's no work, there's no opportunity, you have to go to the States, you have to go to Europe, there's no way that you can build a career in Canada as an actor or as a playwright. You either have to do it all, or you have to diversify, be a teacher and a playwright, or go do your Joe job and then do your acting at night, and it became accepted. But that is actually taking away from the power of the artist to do their work. So, without going too much further, that's the world that I came into. The golden age has passed. Now it's about survival, and to be perfectly frank, we're not surviving very well.
And we need our artists more than ever.
We really need our artists.
Would you like to interview this brother?
I
You
just
want
want
to
to tell
say
you-
your name and
My name is Dick Sandberg.
and
I'm with the Free School, and have been in Common for 10 years.
you're an economist?
I'm a people's economist.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I worked for a long time in international trade, so my economics is based on experience. Not on, well, I also read a lot of books, but I don't do all the mathematics.
Yeah.
What I'd like to add is, can you get this diagram here?
Yes.
It shows the result of the change in economic policies. That you can see up to the 70s, both United States and Canada had fairly high economic real growth.
Yeah, and this goes from the 50s to decade by decade to the last decade of 2000. So on the far left there is
You can see how
50s, the 60s, the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s.
yeah,
So you want to explain those graphs?
yeah, the three first graphs.
This is Canada, this is the US.
Yeah, they follow each other pretty much,
Uh-huh.
And the first three graphs, which was under the monetary policies that we advocate, where the Bank of Canada don't interest rate.
Yep.
The economic growth was in the 4 to 5% range. real economic growth, which means after inflation is counted. And after that, economic growth fell, and the last decade has been around 2%. So one can see that economic policies with the credit system has had a huge effect on all aspects of Canadian society.
Now, do you know a bit about the whole thing in '74 when Trudeau wanted to get Canada into the G7, was forced by the IMF and the World Bank to adopt the system of, instead of the Bank of Canada and us printing our own money, turning it over, at least in a weird, fucked up way. The U.S. has the Fed, a private entity, not a central bank. Bank of England, not a central bank, it's a private entity. It works stranger in Canada.
Yeah.
Can you explain that '74 period? Because that's what changed everything.
That's what changed everything. And the main change was, as we pointed out, that the Bank of Canada stopped giving interest-free loans to public institutions, both government and also on the provincial level. And as Chris just pointed out, at the same time in the United States, in '73, they went away from the gold standard. So there was a lot of changes in the international currency system, where all the major currencies went to floating rates. BI is the Bank for International Settlement, which is based in Basel, has imposed conditions on the different countries, so the banking regulations are all the similar. I don't know the specifics about '74, how much these internationals was involved in the policy change in Canada, but it seems certainly that there was some involvement. But I think Anne and the other folks in Comma, they have more specifics than I have. I know more about the general economic situations.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there was a lot of changes. Of course, at the same time, you know, the trend of outsourcing manufacturing was also kind of moving upwards, which meant that both America and Canada started to import a lot of things, which created currency imbalances.
If you were to explain the state of affairs at the Bank of Canada today and its relationship to the main banks here in Canada, how would you sum it up today?
Well, the Bank of Canada is basically on the surface. Its main interaction with the economy is setting base rates for loans, which the banks.
But it's a very weakened Bank of Canada compared to, say, pre-'74.
I wouldn't say so.
Really?
I think that's a wrong picture, because basically the governments here never really interfere with it, and it rules really the economy very strongly by its interest-setting rates and it has this very strong it's anti-inflation, you know. So the governments, the advice to governments is always, you know, austerity before taxing the rich, you know. And I read some of the statement that there's another half year, and that's kind of, you know, the standard fare there, you know. You gotta control the budget by cutting austerity, and you know, at the moment our government is totally on that line. You know. No tax rises, cut, you know. Let the people pay. And one interesting fact was the last quarter, the 5 big banks, they had a profit of more than $20 billion, just 3 months. They are cashing in all the time.
Yeah, I think the business report on Monday was, oh, another bank has record profits. Oh, big news.
Buy more shares.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, the banks are owned by the 1%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
that
the reporters have to report it, but at the same time, in the mainstream media, as we all know, they also can only report it in a certain way.
Mhm.
So it's about like picking up those cues. Some of them are really, really good at saying what they can say, but in a way that is hopefully letting people know who wouldn't otherwise seek out alternative media that there's something wrong here. There's something to address.
I've asked this enough times, and I ask it again. I'll ask both of you. How much money is enough for these folks? $1 billion? $1 trillion? Like, really? How much money is enough?
How much money
So-
is enough, Dick?
well, here's another diagram. It shows you how the 1% share on national income has gone up.
Wow, it's so disproportional.
They're hoarding. They're hoarding to increase the
And
budget.
so, how much money is enough for these?
Well,
Is $1 million not enough?
in
10 million, $1 billion, $1 trillion? Like, where does it end?
I have a proposal for a sustainable economy, and in that proposal, I say that no company should have more than 1 to 5 between the lowest paid and the highest paid. That's even higher now.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean-
worse in the States. I heard like 500 to 1.
It's gone a little bit down for the height in 2007. It's
Between the
probably,
CEO and the shop floor,
Yeah.
quote unquote.
and just to give an example, Caterpillar, which closed the factory up in London at the start of this year, their CEO in 2011, he carried away 62 million American dollars. So that could pay the salary for several factories, for years.
Yeah.
But,
Wow.
that's
They
how-
don't care.
That's how it's divided, and it's and you can see in America, it's like a person like Romney, who's what is he? He's one of those guys, 25 million of yearly income, and refusal to show what he pays in taxes because it's probably pretty close to that one. And they're rapacious. They don't care about society anymore. They just want to defend what they have grabbed.
Yeah. What I think will be really interesting is, as this goes through the procedures, is to see exactly the evidence that is brought forward by the plaintiffs, because Rocco did say, this isn't, right now we're not looking at evidence. They're not allowed to bring evidence in at this point. So how can the defendant assume anything because they haven't seen the evidence, and we have the evidence? And of course I don't know exactly what evidence they do have. I know from my own research and my own experience, but I'm sure what they will bring forward will just blow this conspiracy out of the water, and that it really is the banksters that are controlling everything, and they do receive preferential treatment over all other citizens in this world. And it is unacceptable, and it is unreasonable, and that is why, through due process, the evidence will hopefully get us to calling it, it's the truth. It's the truth. It's our truth, and we'll have the evidence to prove it. It's just beginning.
Yeah, it's important to notice there's 2 points in the claim, or 2 central points. The one is what we talked about there, the money creation. The second is the secrecy around the budgets, the federal budgets.
Yeah.
And if that goes through,
Which is,
that,
it can't be. It's
Well-
a public thing, right? Traditionally.
it's not.
It's supposed to be public, but it's never
Harvard
accessible.
hides it, and as some of the common folk has proved that the MPs, when they vote on the budget when the parliamentary year starts, they don't know what they're voting upon. This is
What?
That's a fact.
Okay, so we've seen a budget, right? You can download the omnibus budget, the 1,000 pages of it, and read the budget. But has anyone ever seen a revenue sheet right? Like, where's the revenue? Okay, I see your expenses.
Okay, well, 25% is in Harper's offshore account,
Yeah.
and the rest, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's exactly it. The citizen should be empowered to see the revenue that's coming in and go, yo, MP Bob Jones.
Yo, mother.
This revenue that's coming in, 60% of it is going towards all these tax cuts, you know, and this sort of subsidies for private corporations. And I really don't agree with that. But right now, they can't even say how much is coming from where or how much there is even to begin with. So what the plaintiff was saying in defense to the Crown, stating that this should be in the Commons, this is a debate for the Commons, what we are saying is that it's actually unable to be properly debated because we don't have all the information. And like, come on, don't you want to know exactly how much Canada is making in taxes? And like, of course we want to know, and we want to know exactly the breakdown so that we can call up Bob Jones, MP, and say, you know, this is my opinion. And that that's how far it gets. But at least we have the due process, and our parliamentary system is actually functioning. Because right now, they're stuck with their hands tied.
Yeah.
They don't have the information. So I think what we need to do is actually lobby some MPs, some MPPs, and city councillors, all levels of government, and find the ones that can be champions on this issue. Because although we are stating, and including myself in this, and I'm not actually listed, but I'm supporting. So that's what I'm saying. We're stating that, yes, it's health implications, it's education implications, it's socioeconomic implications, which tend to be like provincial jurisdiction, but it relates to the federal courts because within our Constitution there is the equanimity, equality, basically all the provinces are equalized. Equalization is written within our Constitution. So that's why the federal courts have jurisdiction to take a look at this case, where most of the implications of the issue are on like provincial jurisdiction. But that is also why we would need champions at the grassroots level, from communities, from councils, municipal councils, as well as from the provincial government and of course the federal government, who would act as citizens and as representatives in the government, saying, yo, we support this, we agree, and they've helped with awareness. So I think that's the next step that I'm going to take. I'm going to try to find some of those happy people. Yeah, because they're out there.
Live Guy says we need a federal audit. Big time.
Yeah, and yeah, they don't even listen. They don't even listen to the Auditor General, and they kick out the budgetary officer, which they created the office in the first place. And it's just, you know, keep smiling. Yeah, it's deep. It's deep.
By the way, you and Chris need to start doing your weekly political salon show.
We're going to. What time is it scheduled for?
That's up to you. We're saying
what time
Thursday.
is the political salon scheduled for on the
Thursday? You know.
What were we saying? 6 o'clock.
6 to the Bean show starts at 10:30 ish.
Yeah. So Thursdays at 6. That means we'll have dinner on live stream. We'll eat some dinner.
Yeah.
Where? It's going to be on the
Weekly show.
I don't know where.
You have guests. You guys got a laptop?
We do, but I'm not sure if it's going to be able to run.
Yeah, that's why I'll give you the live stream director's training. It'll be fine. You'll be fluent in live streamese.
Yes, we wanted to.
If I get a nice video card for my PC.
Okay, so Chris is always worried about not having good enough video quality.
Yeah.
So, like,
I'll whip you two into shape. If I have to give you patty wax, my friend.
I went and spent $120 on an HD camera like a month before Occupy, and then I brought it to Occupy and I freaking lost it. So I was like, I'm still sour about that. It was a nice HD camera and everything. And I had started my own show called Huge Ambition, which was with my vlog at the time.
Nice.
It was good
Well,
stuff.
you can't live
Here
in
we
the
go
past.
again. I know, I live in the past constantly. Yeah, center, balance. I'm in. Thursdays. So no choir practice then? I go to bell practice instead on Mondays.
Yeah, were we ever going to really do choir?
No, not really. I don't want to go to choir.
I don't want
Too
to.
many old people.
It's all right.
Bell practice.
Some more thoughts about what happened today.
It's interesting. Interesting to note that the Trans-Canada Railways, I think they said, or Trans-Canada Highway was financed by
And
the
the
Bank
St.
of Canada.
Lawrence.
Yeah, and it's a lot of seaway.
And the St. Lawrence Seaway.
That's pretty
And all the
And
locks.
And World War II.
Yeah, World
So,
War
like-
II was a big one.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why they actually created it with William Lyon
that
Mackenzie
was
King.
done, yeah.
I found some good quotes from William Lyon Mackenzie King. I actually want to get the legislature from 1935
Yes.
when they actually went forward and said like this needs to be a public yada yada yada. That'd be a cool thing to actually get and read out.
In the late 30s, they tried to fight the depression first with interest rate cuts, like they do today. And interest cuts are ineffective when you have a bad economy because companies still won't spend. You know,
Yeah, they hoard their money because
hoard
they
their
think it's the
money.
safest thing to do.
it becomes a liquidity trap. So the only way a country can get out of depression is by the government create money and set infrastructure projects and social capital spending. Spend money on that.
Social equity, social capital, they were saying, right? Human capital. So
Yeah.
what it's supposed to be made to create
Well,
and sustain.
and also equitable of taxing. I mean, the rich should pay the fair share of the taxes. That way also you don't need to have all the deficits. So basically when you have a social transfer payment, you know, like social security, old age pensions, those should come from taxes. Yeah, there's a logic in that, you know, that social transfer has to come from taxes. Because you don't know whether or not that money is going to be spent or how it's going to be spent.
Yeah.
So it's not sure that it's going to energize the economy. But you can also use that as a tool in a depression. By, for example, what they did in the States that they enhance the unemployment period. And unemployment spending is generally considered 100% spending. You know, people who get an extra dollar in unemployment, their money, they will spend it all right away, basically.
Yeah.
So why do you give a millionaire an extra dollar? He's not going to spend it. You know. He's going to buy a share in the company for that money, which basically creates what's called asset inflation, which is like the same also when the house prices went up. You know, that's a value that goes up without this new economic production.
Yeah.
It just prices that goes up. You know.
Yeah. It's kind of made out of thin air in a way.
What?
It's kind of like made in thin air. It's nothing that's actually concrete and real. Because at any time.
Yeah, and that's what's going on right here now with all this condo speculation. Because what I heard is between at least 1/3 of all the condos here are empty. They're bought from speculation. You know.
ING?
What?
You say ING?
No, all the condos here,
Yeah.
they're bought. Not. I said 1/3 of them roughly. You know, I don't know for sure, but large part of them is empty because people have bought them for speculation in hope that the prices will further go up. And that's again, it's money changing hands without there's any new production. Of course, they're building more condos, but a lot of it will. It's going to crash too, like the Americans. Maybe not so bad, but there's going to be a crash in the condo market very soon.
Sorry, I just broke out this thing. The live stream broke off.
Okay.
Oh, this
No
is
problem.
probably why.
Ah,
Maybe that'll change it.
Yeah, I gotta go now.
That was a good day.
It was. It was excellent.
The energy in the courtroom was just like,
Yeah.
it just feels like it's gonna move forward. It definitely feels like it's gonna move forward.
Yeah. I think everybody was really energized. And it's funny also, I think the judge were liked it, As you said, I don't think that was just politeness. I think he really meant it. That he said it was fun to see a lively courtroom.
Yeah.
And I thought that was,
Yeah, it was packed.
yeah.
I was really happy to see so many people there.
Yeah, it was
So
good.
was everybody
I
else.
wasn't sure there would come that many, and I was also surprised.
Yeah, I had a feeling it was gonna be pretty there's gonna be a lot of people there, but
So-
I was still there was still a part of me that wasn't sure.
Yeah,
So
but it's a complex thing, I mean, you tell people, and also against the Bank of Canada. What?
yeah,
That can't be it. You gotta follow stuff.
what's going on? Oh, it's because he's on Starbucks and not his thing. Here comes Shanger. You're taking off?
Okay,
Alright.
keep me
Thank
informed
you,
of what's
Dick.
going on.
Yeah,
I don't get so much information now because I have a little quarrel with Roxy.
yeah. I haven't been doing too much.
Yeah. But if the arts program come up and running, I'm interested about it.
For sure. Yeah, I haven't been going to any preschool stuff lately.
No.
Really. I'm just trying to take it easy and just kind of
Yeah.
focus on a lot of different things right now.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Trying to save some horses. Lost the feed.
Okay.
Pretty much that's